Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome everybody to the review of the latest Stephen King adaptation, Salem's Lot, which is a supernatural horror film, and this is a remake, I guess, of the 1979 miniseries that came out back then. I didn't realize, this is crazy, but I didn't realize I'd never seen that miniseries. Granted, it came out the year I was born, so obviously I didn't catch it when it was originally broadcast, but I thought I had seen it. And then I remembered, well, they made another one, The Return to Salem's Lot. I think I remember seeing that. And I think that's where I got twisted up at. But in my mind, I'm thinking that I saw the original. And so I went into this, with the mind frame. Let's see how it stacks up. And I think about 10 minutes in, I was like, wait, I didn't see the original. It just don't, it clicked. It was like, you didn't see it, Kevin. And so I went into this pretty blind, and that's good in a lot of cases because your expectations aren't high. You're going into it with fresh eyes and a fresh perspective. Don't have this grandioso performance that a new actor has to live up to, and so on and so forth. So it's good to go into things as if it's fresh, brand new. This film stars Louis Pullman, who is the son of Bill Pullman. If you don't know who Bill Pullman is, he's been in a slew of films in his career. But one of the most notable roles that he had, he was the president in Independence Day. Yes, that's Bill Pullman, and this is his son. And you will know it's his son. He looks like him, and in some cases even talks like him. But he stars in this film. Mackenzie Lee, Alfie Woodard, who I didn't even know was in this movie, also stars along with Louis Pullman. And the plot of Salem's Lot centers on a writer who returns to his hometown of Jerusalem's Lot in search of inspiration, only to discover the presence of a vampire. Yeah, people, it's October. You know what it is. It is it's horror season. Of course, I said Stephen King in the first place, so you know what it is. Stephen King adaptations. How many Stephen King be honest with yourself. How many Stephen King adaptations can you really sit back and say they got it right? Not too many. And I thought about that too after I finished watching this film. I'm like, they really haven't knocked them out the park, with the exception of a few. A few of them. It chapter 1 was pretty good. Chapter 2 was all right, but it wasn't as good as the first one. There's a couple of them spread out there that I'm blanking on right now, but I know it. I can say it was the best. Salem's Lot wasn't that bad. It wasn't that good either, but it wasn't that bad. This was a film that was filmed back in 2021. It was announced in 2019, but it was filmed in 2021, and I had to look it up. I remember it being announced, but I had to look it up after I watched the film because they have a young actor in this film that's in a TV show that I watch currently, and he's older. He's much older. Well, not much, but you can tell he's growing. He hit puberty, and so I'm like, is that him? How old is this movie? I thought this was a new release, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, they really they put this on the shelf. And when I looked it up, I'm like, yeah, it was filmed in 2021. They had some additional reshoots in 2022, and it's just been sitting there since then for 2 years. And finally, they released it on Max. It didn't get a theatrical release. And my honest opinion, that was the right decision. Not because of the quality of the film per se. It just feels like a TV movie. And to say that this is a remake of a TV miniseries, it makes sense. It's very TV-ish. Other than the fact that there is blood, uh, not so much gore, but there is blood in this film. Some really brutal kills, I would say. Involving children, might I add. But mm, it's not it's not a gory rip people apart type movie. It's none of that. But it just feels TV-ish when you think about the scale of the movie. It just didn't look theatrical. But I will say I did enjoy the movie for what it was. It wasn't horrible. I actually think this film is very watchable and rewatchable. To be honest with you, it's good. The performances are good. Only one really stood out to me, but overall, it was good performances. The story was the story. A vampire in this small town. It's really not that complicated. My problems with the film, I, I said it was good performances, but they were very mid. There were some mid performances here. Namely, uh, um, uh, Pullman. Why I couldn't get his name out. Lewis Pullman, who's the lead here. He plays Ben, the writer here, and I just I couldn't believe him. I just couldn't get behind him as the lead. And this is nobody's fault but my own. In my mind, I'm thinking ahead. With Lewis Pullman, because he's cast. Actually, he's filmed the movie. He plays Century in the MCU in the upcoming Thunderbolts film, and that's a very deep character, Century, in the comics. And so if he's playing him, in the way he has this kind of laid back demeanor, it doesn't really coincide with that character. But as far as this character who we're talking about today, it's still it's too laid back to me. And when you think about it, his dad's the same way. His dad has the same acting style. He doesn't get angry. You rarely see Bill Pullman angry in a film. He has that same tone, same demeanor. It's crazy, and he passed that on to his son. Lewis Pullman has the same mannerisms. There are some scenes where he's kind of, frantic when vampires are chasing him and whatever. But other than that, it's when he's supposed to be the lead and driving the story along. It just didn't really work for me. But the MVP of this film, the one who saves this film for me as the best performance, is a actor named Jordan Preston Carter. He plays Mark, the young kid, the young black kid in the film. And I know saying that is weird, but he's the only black kid in the movie. But he is the MVP of this movie. He is Blade. This was like the origin story of Blade. He is Blade. The dude saved the movie. He was so good from beginning to end. I loved his character. His character was the only one that I felt was kind of flushed out and that was written well. And I gravitated to him, because he was about his business, man. He stood on business, as the kids would state. He was a beast in this movie. Loved him. He saved the movie for me. The vampires in this movie, they were all right. I loved when they were in the background, when they were in the shadows. That was real creepy. That was scary. I just standing on the roofs of buildings and stuff like that. That was real creepy. And so they did a good job with that. But when they had to confront him, they weren't too much of a threat to me. They were kind of vanquished a little easily throughout the film to me. And the the ending. I mean, it is a Stephen King film, at least based on a Stephen King novel. But we all know that Stephen King does not know how to end his stories. He doesn't know how to end them, and it translates into the films. And the same thing here. They ended it. It was an ending. It was just like it just ended. It was like going down a dead end street going 100 miles per hour, and you just slammed into the brick wall. That was it. You just trip over. Get out the car. That's it. It was just boom. It's over. And yeah, without spoiling anything, I'm trying to dance around it. Yeah, the end I didn't like the end. I didn't like how we got a resolution to this problem. And I'll just leave it at that. It was dumb to me. Real dumb. But there were some good scenes in this movie. There was it was set up well. The first act and a half were really good. Really, really good. And once we started discovering what was going on in the town, it got kind of messy. And that's very, very disappointing because that's the meat of the movie. But the setup was perfect. It just couldn't quite execute it properly. But overall, I would say it is a watchable film. If you're a fan of Stephen King films, if you're a fan of vampire films, this is a good watch. I honestly do recommend it. Salem's Lot, which is currently on Max for your viewing pleasure, just in time for Halloween, gets a letter grade of a C+. Yeah, it was decent. Slightly above average. Slightly above. But that's just one man's opinion. I would love to know yours. Have you checked out Salem's Lot? Do you remember watching the original? I was going to watch the original and kind of do a double feature review the original and this updated version. But the original is close to 3.5 hours long because it was a mini series. So I didn't have the time, but I do plan to watch it. I do plan to go back and watch it and compare the two. And now that I've seen this one, I want to see how the 1979 version was. But I would love to know, what are your thoughts of Salem's Lot? Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Don't forget to subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Salem's Lot. I am so excited this month because it is October. It's Halloween. Yeah, I love horror movies, and we have a slew of horror movies coming down the pike in the next few weeks, and I can't wait. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.